preface this by saying I took basically no notes. Like legit,
Great.
I took. I'll tell you.
1, 2.
1, 2. Three.
Keep going.
Grand total of 3.
Grand total of 3. I took. Give me a second here. And like bullet points.
Okay, actually no.
I'm counting. Wait.
I'm gonna call these 2 part of 1. So I'm gonna say a grand total of 2 legit thoughts.
two legit thoughts. Okay, I took 93 notes.
Wow.
I mean, to be absolutely fair, it is stuff like Dustin and Dart, 11 and Hopper. You know, like it is just little acknowledgments versus like full on whatever. But it is
Hopper's
a lot more than season 1
again.
So yeah, here we are. We're back. It's been a little bit since we recorded the one for season 1. I think that was exactly a month ago today that we're recording this. That's kind of funny, but we are back for season 2 because we kind of fell off in rewatching it for like a month basically, and then we it's funny, like we fell off for a month and then came back and rewatched it in like a couple days. You know, it's like it didn't take that long, which is funny for the massive time in between. But yeah, we are here to talk about Stranger Things season 2, or Stranger Things 2. I've always liked how they call it like 2, 3, 4. Like it sounds like a movie. You know, it's like Stranger Things 2. That was always really exciting. So I guess we can talk a little bit about Stranger Things. It's like Shrek the Third, Stranger Things the Third. But I guess we can talk a little bit about in terms of like what it was like when season 2 was out. I remember like when season 2 was coming out, and this brings us to 2017. I remember being the most excited for like any TV show ever when season 2 was coming out. Like because like season 1 was such a massive hit and nobody expected it or knew what it was, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, Stranger Things, like it's so cool, it's so awesome. And like there was a certain like level of mystery with the second season, because it was like it could be anything could happen, you know, like there was like such an uncertain, like it's funny because like now it feels like you can kind of like I obviously don't know what's going to happen in the final season, but you can kind of get a good sense of like, well, they usually do something like this, so like this might happen, or like, you know, there's going to be a scene where they're talking to each other and then it's like 11 cuts or whatever, you know, like we've kind of like pieced together the structure in our heads. But like at the time, you only had the 1 season, so it could literally be anything, which made it like really exciting. And like, you know, at the time, like this show was like huge going into its second season, and like the kids were everywhere. Like they were on every talk show, like I mean, that's the only like commercials, like they it seemed like everywhere. Like Stranger Things was kind of everywhere for a while in that like build up from season 1 to 2. And yeah, I remember like this was one of those shows that at the time I was a lot younger, and because this was like 7-8 years ago, something like that. 2017.
8 years ago. 2017 is 8 years ago. That's what time of year did it come out? I don't even remember.
October 27th it came out.
And how do you know that?
I don't know. I just know.
That's
but
crazy.
I remember again, like because it was such a massive hit unexpectedly, I remember like everything was kept so under wraps, and it was suddenly one of those shows that was like huge, that was taken so seriously. Like, okay, nothing can come out about this show, we're keeping it so secretive. And I just remember like looking up, like searching Stranger Things season 2 news and stuff like that, and trying to like see what it was going to be about and stuff. And I just remember like the sort of Stranger Things mania at the time, and it being really exciting. And then like and like just a small little tidbit about like, you know, the buildup. I remember, like, I don't know if you remember, but that Comic-Con trailer that they released where they used Thriller is one of like the best trailers for a show
that one.
You need to watch it.
I gotta watch it.
Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize your neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found.
This is like one of the most hype-inducing trailers. Like this, and like this is how you also knew that it was a big deal, because like them using a Michael Jackson song, like that costs money. Like Thriller costs so much money, like the licensing for that. And it was just so exciting because like everybody was so down for it. And yeah, I just remember watching. I remember when this trailer dropped. I remember hearing that Stranger Things was going to be at Comic-Con and being like, oh my gosh, maybe they'll show a trailer. And I remember like, okay, the panel's slated for 7:30 p.m. Maybe they'll drop it around then, and just refreshing. And then I remember the trailer dropping, and it was so exciting because I was like, oh my gosh, it's more Stranger Things, you know. What do you, and like we can talk about it briefly, but what do you remember of like sort of the build up waiting for season 2?
I have a terrible memory, so I don't really remember like back in 2017 thinking like, oh my gosh, Stranger Things is gonna come out, blah, 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 blah. Like I don't remember how I was feeling at that point, like at all.
I don't even remember if I liked it or not.
I mean, honestly, because we had to have been talking about it like back then, right? Like, what was 2017? Yeah. Was 2017?
I was gonna say what's crazy about this is that October 27th, 2017. Me and you had only known each other for a couple of months. Like we met school year, and like we had only. So
we were probably not talking about it at all.
I mean, I remember one of the first things that we talked about was Stranger Things, though, because I remember at the time it was out, and the conversation that everybody was having was like, so you watch Stranger Things, you know? It was kind of like, is it out? And I can't remember how it got to this point in the conversation, but I remember I said something about Stranger Things, like asking you, and like you said, you quoted the scene in like one of the episodes where Hopper goes, vines. He's drawing vines. And I don't remember why.
I do not even remember saying that.
I remember you said it, and I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's Stranger Things, right?
You know, what's funny is when he said that, I was like, okay, what? Like watching it back now, I was like, okay, what? Vines? Like, bro, come on.
But yeah, I just remember you saying that and be like, yeah, Stranger Things is cool, right? But that is it's really weird thinking about that. And this is just unrelated, that like me and you had only known each other for like a couple months. We probably weren't really friends then. And like fast forward 8 years later, and we're like,
who knew 8 years later?
Yeah.
We'd be like,
we're talking about Stranger Things and like talking about different movies, watching movies. Like it's so weird to think about that, because like especially like after school, like after that part of our lives, it's like, oh yeah, like 8 years later when we're past all that, we're talking about Stranger Things on a Discord call, like you said. But yeah, I just remember the build up being super, like I was so excited about this season. It was my most anticipated thing ever at the time. And like I remember like being in study halls at school, just like a little loser, like thinking and like kind of like doodling like, oh my gosh, Stranger Things is going to come out in a couple days. Oh my gosh, only a couple more days. And like, I was that excited about it. And, you know, season 2 drops. And so now we can, and I just wanted to talk about like the build up feeling, because like, you know, it was a pretty big deal at the time, like the fact that there was more Stranger Things because everybody was so excited about it. But yeah, now we can talk a little bit about the season. So first thing I want to say about the season is I honestly really enjoy season 2, I think more than most. I think that there is a lot about it that people don't really acknowledge, really. And in terms of just like our friend of the channel / co-host, I guess, Timmy. Shout out to Timmy.
Friend of the channel.
Friend of the channel sounded weird. Timmy, he one thing that he said about this season, like that I forget when he said it. It was a while ago, but it's kind of like I've always kind of thought of it, is he said season 2 feels like it was made to finish season 1. And I totally agree with that. And I feel like season 2 does a good job at feeling like more of season 1 because tonally it feels very much in the same vein and feels like a very good continuation of where we left off, even though it's like a year later. It feels like, even visually speaking, it just feels very much in the same vein as season 1 with more like flair to it, which I really like right away after the Lost Sister opening, which I think is really funny how that's the opening of the season.
Yeah. Side note before you
Yeah.
keep saying what you're saying. I didn't when I was watching it, I didn't realize that they don't even come back to that until like 8 episodes later. And then it's like, oh yeah, the intro that you saw like 8 episodes ago. Here's what here's where it comes
the
into
deal
play.
with
like,
that.
That's crazy. I thought it would have been like way earlier, like at least like episode 5 or something. But
yeah, it is a very interesting choice. Yeah, especially because just getting a little bit further into the show because of the reception to that, they never went back to that, which just makes it even funnier. But right after the Lost Sister opening, when we get reintroduced to the characters, there's like a little bit more color than in the previous season. Like there's especially with the arcade, like there's a visually speaking, the show kind of like they kind of stepped it up a little bit, which I really love. I just love the look of all the shots in the arcade, and just it feels like a very good, at least the first episode feels like a very good we're back type deal, which I always really like on rewatch.
That's one thing that I was gonna bring up, but you kind of brought up too was the fact that like for some reason I remembered the whole Lost Sister thing as a much bigger part of this season, when in reality it's like half an episode. And
well, it's a full episode, and then that opening, a little bit of
the next, but I have more like specific thoughts, not really too much on the season as a whole. I think basically all my the things that I noticed were like the little things. For instance, like Murray, low-key, I forgot he was in season 2, but like he's like season 1. I had a few favorite characters, obviously. For season 2, I have to say Murray's on there. Murray's definitely on there. As well.
Yeah, he's a fun addition.
And then obviously Hopper again. Hopper? I don't know how Hopper is so genius at literally everything. Also, Bob. How did I forget he was in season 2? Like he,
yeah, you forget these things at this point in the show.
And I was like, oh shoot, oh shoot.
Yeah, right. You're like Bob.
I was like Bob. Bob.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a good like direction with what I'm gonna say, but I feel like season 2 low-key has a lot of lore that I missed or just forgot altogether. Because, for instance, my 2 notes that I have are about are because I was like, oh shoot, this is like lore that I feel like could be pertinent to future seasons, which we're only gonna have 1, so it probably won't be that. It probably won't change anything at all. But for one, I was like, wait, Terry Ives has like powers low key.
Yeah, a little bit.
She made the lights flicker, so that's at least something. It's like, okay, is that what they were trying to do, or they just like Dr. Brenner didn't care at all about like the fact that she also had powers? He was just like, nah, I just want your kid, bro. Like, you can't.
I just
we
want
can
that
fry
baby,
your brain, and that's it. It's like that was interesting, and
I do think it's interesting too, because it's either like a thing where they are like, they were like hinting at something, either that, or it was just a way for Eleven to figure out that like she is trying to reach out to her. It's like one or the other, but I kind of like that idea.
Not only that, but also the whole like Terry Ives flashback things also introduces the Rainbow Room, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which I was like, oh shoot, wait, I forgot they did that too. And, you know, of course, what did they call her? What's her sister's name?
Callie.
Callie.
Callie, Collie, I don't know. It was one of the pronunciations, whatever. 8, yeah.
Right. I don't know. I find it, well, obviously it's like a thing where it's like, okay, they didn't come up with the other seasons yet, so they didn't really know. But it's like, okay, where were all the other kids?
Yeah.
That's besides the point. The point is
we can get into that.
The point is there's lore. There's I feel like this season is one of the ones that actually sets up, well, I mean, when we watch the rest of them, obviously they're gonna set up more lore, but I feel like the first season didn't have as much like baseline lore and like quote unquote,
it was more so
type things.
It was more so built on the mystery of it.
Yeah. As like, I don't remember because obviously I didn't say which episodes made me take these notes, but
yeah.
Where
there's like anywhere in the 9-hour binge.
It's like I took 3 notes, and
that's really funny.
And all it is just, you know, it's like Stranger Things 2, and then it's like Terry Ives has powers.
It's like
and
5
then, like,
episodes
2 other ones,
in.
And it's like that's it. No timestamp, no nothing.
Building off of what you were saying, the show does introduce like interesting lore that I feel like it's a good instance of like world building, which is what I feel like is another thing that it's a good and bad thing about this season, because like season 2 is a bit of a slow burn compared to season 1, and it's because like it spends a lot of time like getting you sort of reacquainted with the characters, and this, you know, showing this is what they've been up to, this is what they're doing, like this is what they do when the things aren't crazy, they go to the arcade, they whatever, and like it takes a little bit for the season to get to the central conflict, which I mean I'll get into in a little bit, but it's interesting because like I wouldn't say that's a bad thing, because it's not like everything has to just happen at the end, like, you know, go constantly, but like when season 1 kind of just got to it straight away, when it takes like to the end of episode 3 to be like, okay, this is what we're dealing with this season, it's a little bit like on rewatch, I'm kind of like, that's an interesting choice. But as you know, as like a fan of the show, especially at the time when I was just like enthralled and was like, oh my gosh, more Stranger Things, like I didn't care. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on, it's cool, it's more of the show I like. It's funny because like, you know, going through the season, there's a couple of indicators that like this show is a big deal now, and one is like the amount, the 80 songs per minute are a straight up sign of bigger budget. And it's like literally every scene in like the first episode is set up to a different song. It's like whip it good. And then
it's like they had all these ideas for season 1, and they were like, okay, we have to do this.
We have the money now. It's like, it's like I say whip it, then you're talking in your sleep, and then oingo boingo, and like all, you know, there's so much music, and it's like, wow, they had a budget this time. And also just the visuals are great. Like the scene, I mean, I mentioned this a little bit briefly, but visual effects, like Will walking out of the arcade and he sees the storm, like it's very cool visually. And it just really, you know, it's like, I do think the show does a good job, like showing you like, or like getting you excited, or this season, I mean, for what's to come, because when you're watching it, especially coming after season 1, you're like, oh wow, he's seen the upside down, that's so cool. That and like the visuals and the music, it's like it's kind of crazy, honestly, like, and thinking about being in like the Duffer Brothers shoes, it must have been insane to have their show that was sort of like a whatever, you know, it's a Netflix show, like, you know, do your thing, blow up to the point where like Netflix was like, anything, okay, you get anything. Like do what you want,
an unlimited budget, just make it good.
Just make it good and make more of it. Like that is
Make
crazy.
more money.
There's a lot of things in the season where I'm like, wow, like this is like a bigger deal now. But one thing that I do like about season 2, like I was saying, how it felt like more like season 1, is that at this point in the show, when I watch it, I don't feel like, oh man, like these kids are like billionaires yet. I'm not like they kind
it
of
still
feel
has
more
yeah.
of like the innocence of season 1.
Yeah, it still has the feeling like they're the characters instead of the actors that are,
Yeah.
bajillionaire teenagers.
And who are like on Jimmy Fallon, and they're all,
Yeah, and
which isn't a
it
bad thing,
doesn't.
but it does take you out of it a little bit, where it's like, that's Millie Bobby Brown,
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Specifically Millie Bobby Brown.
Specifically Millie.
The Tatsy on the backside.
The season introduces a lot. Like when I'm watching it, especially thinking about like where it goes, it's really funny. Or I always say it's funny. I don't know how funny it is, but
it's not really funny.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Watching it, like knowing where it goes, like how much they introduce in the season. Like for example, episode 1, we get Billy and Max, 2 new characters,
right?
And the first thing I want to say about
they like introduced Billy and Max like this early, but like I forgot that they like specifically Billy like stayed so long through the actual show as a whole.
But it's what's interesting about Billy and Max, more so Max, just considering what happens with Billy, is that like it's when you like, there's some shows where like you watch a season and it starts out with a certain set of characters, and then come season 2, they introduce characters. It's like, oh, that's a fan favorite character, and then the show kind of changes with the addition of a new character. And when you rewatch the first season, you're kind of like waiting for the new character to come along. You're like, oh, like when I watch season 1, I don't really feel like I'm missing Max or I'm missing Billy. It's like, it's weird, which is, it kind of speaks to like how good the central cast was from season 1 just on their own. But like, it's interesting because rewatching it, Max in season 2, I do like her addition to the show, and same or more so Max than Billy. But like, I mean, I think Billy's kind of funny, but it's weird because Max, and I can get into it in a little bit, but like I feel like it's interesting considering where they go with her in seasons 3 and 4, that like really her character starting out was kind of just, she existed just to be a source of conflict, which I think was kind of interesting rewatching it, because like her main role in season 2 being introduced is, okay, she's there so because Dustin and Lucas have a crush on her. She's there to cause conflict between Dustin and Lucas, and also Mike and the rest of Mike and Dustin and Lucas, because
the party,
and the party, and that's kind of her role. And she, aside from like driving them to the pumpkin patch at the end of the season, that she doesn't really do much for the story. It's one of those things that I'm not that big of a fan of, and I've mentioned this in different videos where, like I've said, they introduce a new season who really doesn't have a reason to be there, and then they give them the one thing where it's like, no, but they did this, and it's like, okay,
no,
but like
they're the zoomer.
Yeah, like realistically you could have had it so like Lucas is learning to drive or something like that, like her role wasn't necessarily exclusive to her. Like any character could have done that. And the same with Billy. Like Billy kind of feels like he was there purely to fight Steve, and that's it. And it's weird because like there isn't, and again, we know what happens with him in season 3 and in season 3, but like, we're talking about this as if it's like, just this season at face value, versus like, but in future seasons, which is why I'm kind of going off on Max, but like, but it's weird because like Billy, he is there to fight Steve and give conflict for Max, to give her more of like a character, like, oh, my brother, my stepbrother, or whatever. But he fights Steve, gets taken out easily, or not easy, kinda. It gets taken out, and then that's it. Like they have a moment at the end where like he sees Max getting ready for the snowball, and then he walks away, and that's it. And it's like, okay, so what? He was just there to be the anti-Steve, like, but it doesn't really, again, it doesn't really like I mean, I'm sure there's like a thing or two where it like adds something to the story, but he's there purely to be an antagonist, but he doesn't really set off the plot in any way, which is, it's interesting rewatching it because it feels like they just wanted to have a character there just to be evil, which
thinking about it, I think you're right, but at the same time, I think there are some things that kind of domino effect into happening based off Billy being there.
Yeah, sure.
Like for instance, Billy's there, and then I don't know, they go to the party, and I don't know. It's kind of like, well, maybe yeah. Oh.
Maybe he is useless.
Well, actually, no. The more I think about it, the more I think maybe he is useless. Actually, I guess I was gonna say, oh yeah, blah blah blah, the party thing where Steve and Nancy fight with each other. Billy kind of happens because of Billy, but when I think about it, it's like, well, actually, no.
Yeah, like he wasn't involved in
like
any
he didn't
of that,
really do
no.
much there other than drink.
He was just there.
Like what, 27 beer kegs or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, and miraculously survived.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess he's kind of like you said, he's like the anti-Steve. And
Yeah.
he's like almost what Steve was in the first season, but at the
I
same
feel
time,
like-
not really.
I feel like he's what they wanted Steve to be in the first season, because I think I've read that like they wanted Steve to be a more of a jerk character that was like, you know, like the 80s
Yeah.
villain type guy, but like they liked
Right.
Joe Keery, and so they made him more of like charming guy who had a redemption moment. So I feel like that's,
Right.
you know, what they wanted out of that. But
Yeah,
it does feel
Billy is the true the true Steve. or
the
something.
true Steve, yeah. But it is weird because Billy and Max in this season in particular do feel kind of unnecessary, even though I like the addition of Max, and I think, you know, Sadie Sink is good in the role and in the season, especially
Mhm.
coming into like a well-established thing. I've always said it, like, even though I feel like they are kind of unnecessary, like the show does a good job at like introducing new characters into the established cast and having them
Yeah.
fit in, because she fits in, and like so does Billy. Like it's not like they feel out of place, but they just like
Mhm.
it's interesting because every time I rewatch it, I feel like Max doesn't really do that much, and like obviously, you know, there was room to take her in future seasons, but like again, going off of this one season, like she is there just to be a source of conflict and kind of throw a wrench into the boys' friendship,
Mhm.
which that's fine, like it's serviceable. But it ends up it's serviceable, but like it ends up just making her kind of like feel like not that much of a character until we get that scene in like the 6th episode where she and Lucas are on top of the bus and she talks about her parents being divorced, like, and it gives you that like, oh, okay, like there's something. But like that is just like the one scene, and it doesn't, I don't know, Max in this season, like her inclusion and what she does for the story is kind of, I'm kind of iffy on it, because like I always liked her addition to the cast, but I, you know, like I said, when I rewatch it, I'm like, she isn't really doing much for the story except making the characters do things that make you go, why would they do that? Like, you know, it's kind of implied that Dustin kept dark because he wanted to show Max, and it's like, isn't he supposed to be smart? Why is he doing that? Yeah,
Isn't
that's
he
kind of
supposed to be smart?
Isn't he supposed to be some kind of genius?
We know where to get the full-size candy bars. We figured you'd want in.
That's presumptuous of you.
Yeah, totally.
This is kind of unrelated, but how did she know that they were gonna fish through the garbage for the note that she dropped in there? Like,
she took a gamble,
huh? Like,
and she was right.
Like, really, bro?
Yeah, that is kind of funny. It's like, like, but unless if she was like immediately looking like looking out of the window, if there was a window, like she just had to have trust. Like, yeah, they're probably gonna see that.
Who assumes that they're gonna check the garbage can for whatever like she threw out? Like, what?
That's presumptuous of you.
But one thing I want to point out about that scene is that it's followed by, I think, the first "your mom" joke of the season, when the principal comes out and says, "Will Byers, your mother's here."
William Byers? Your mother's here.
One thing that I really, really love about this season is the Halloween backdrop. I think it's such a fun and like atmospheric setting for the season. And it wouldn't really work for what they were going for because like they are building towards like the anniversary of Will's disappearance, bringing up all these emotions and whatever. But I think it would have been really cool if like they used Halloween as more of a backdrop versus like being out of the way after episode 2, because like imagine having like some big final battle thing like on Halloween night, like that would have been really cool.
Yeah, I feel like this season also didn't really have like a main villain or like the main like big bad or whatever, you know? Like
yeah, like they have the
obviously
mind
there was the
flayer,
mind
but it's
and
such a
obviously-
faceless thing that it feels less so like I don't know. I get what you're saying.
Because there was the Demodogs, right?
Yeah.
And there was the Mind Flayer. But they didn't really do much with the Mind Flayer. Like it kind of like spied on them through Will, but like they didn't really like
they
fight it all that much.
Yeah,
And
they
11
they
closed the
more
gate,
so
but like they kind of just saw it, and then
yeah they
also
more so
the
used like the idea of the mind flayer versus like actually having it be like a physical thing, like a Demogorgon,
like a
this
legit
huge
fight.
thing that is like such a big deal, it could rule the world, like which kind of makes it feel less like a physical threat, you know. I mean that in combination with the fact that it's like all CG, you know.
Yeah, true. It's just interesting because like obviously we're not supposed to talk about that, but like
we can talk about it a little bit.
In basically every season, there's been like something they fought specifically.
Yeah, like
right?
a
First it was the
central
Demogorgon, which was like, oh my gosh, it's the Demogorgon, and that was like the biggest thing out there. And then season 2, it's like, oh, now there's the Mind Flayer, but we kind of just like saw it once or twice, and it's kind of controlling the Demodogs and all that, but we kind of just closed the gate, and that was it. And then later seasons, obviously, there's the actual like
there are
fight
threats
with the Mind Flayer, and then like you know,
and then Vecna,
Vecna and all that. And yet this season still works.
Yeah, honestly, it does work. There's a lot that this season has going on, and it feels like it, in my opinion, it all works, but it does feel like kind of a result of like we have a budget now, we can do all this stuff. Like it feels like they kind of wanted to like do a lot of things, everything. like okay, we want to do Gremlins, let's have Dustin get a pet that changes in that changes into something more scary like Gremlins. You know, we want to have multiple Demogorgons, let's have it kind of like Aliens, how and Aliens it was like, oh, there's multiple xenomorphs, like let's have a bunch of Demogorgons, and then let's have the Mind Flayer on top of that. And it kind of feels like, I feel, considering where the season goes, I feel like they played it well to where it doesn't really feel overly cluttered, because they kind of bunched together the Demodogs with the Mind Flayer, because like in the junkyard scene they get called away, and then it's like, wait, they were called away by the Mind Flayer, so like they bunch them together, so it doesn't necessarily feel like unrelated things are happening. It
all ties into each other, so it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, they did all this random garbage that has nothing to do with each other. It like, obviously, Dart is a Demodog, and then the Mind Flayer is basically controlling everything, so it's all essentially
the same deal,
boils down to the same thing.
Yeah,
but they're still separate.
Yeah, but on top of that, where I feel like the season kind of falters in terms of like a structural sense, is that like you have this stuff, and like Will gets possessed, which is the central conflict, which, like I was saying, it takes to like the end of episode 3 to get to that, but like you have that, which is like the main conflict. And then you have, Jonathan and Nancy trying to shut down Hawkins' lab, which is completely unrelated from that. Like, and then on top of that, you have 11 in a cabin for like the first 4 or 5 episodes, which is even more unrelated. And it's on rewatch, I kind of feel like it's like Jonathan and Nancy's like, okay, it's directly related to what happened with Barb, which, you know, after the fan outrage, it was like, oh, we got to do something about Barb and get justice for Barb. That was like the big deal in between seasons. People were like, oh, justice for Barb, you know.
And they got justice.
And, you know, that kind of fits, but 11 in the cabin, for me, kind of feel like I have an idea in my head of like a version of season 2, because like when I watch it, every time I rewatch it, you get good moments from 11 and Hopper, and like it introduces the father-daughter dynamic of 11 and Hopper, which was totally unexpected going in. But it works in a weird way because you wouldn't have thought of it really. I mean, it was hinted at. He was putting the Eggos in the box, but
also,
it wasn't
how did
like
she find that?
yeah, like how realistically, how big are the forests in Hawkins, Indiana?
Like,
Isn't it supposed to be a small town?
Is there like specific areas where everybody's supposed to go when they're lost, and like they leave waffles in a box for people to find? Like,
yeah, I like if she found it, that means that it's like close to a road. so like how deep do the woods go? I don't know. Considering that at the end of season 1, it was I mean, I remember not thinking like, oh, what if like she and Hopper, like, you know, she stays with Hopper and he's hiding her. Like, it's a cool progression of it, but it's weird because like rewatching it, until she like goes to see her like her mom, it kind of feels like her 11 in the cabin sort of treads water for a little bit, to the point where like it makes me question, like, did 11 need to be in this season, you know? Like, because even whenever she finds out the thing about Terry Ives, like it affects her and it helps her, you know, close the gate at the end, because, you know, 8 tells her to like use her anger, but like that is more so development for Terry Ives than it is 11. So it's 11 reacting to that, which affects her because, you know, it's her mother, but like it does kind of feel like for the most part, up until she leaves, her story kind of just like is stalling a little bit. It kind of feels like we have to have 11 in here, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like they could have just left her out of the first half of the season.
Yeah, which I totally think they should have done.
Like it would have been like you know the season where they reveal she's alive or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like Hopper and her eating dinner. Like they could have left that until like season. What am I saying? Until like episode what, like 5 or something, and then it would be like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
yay! And then like her whole like arc, I guess, would start there and be a little bit more expedited throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, like cutting it in half and sort of getting straight to it. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would take reworking, but
yeah, I mean, they could even like keep everything they already did, except just like cut out a little bit of unnecessary stuff and like wait for the reveal.
Yeah,
a little later in the season.
I feel like because the stuff that's there, it's not that it's necessarily bad, but it does make the season feel a little bit slow when it doesn't need to be. Like, you'll figure out something exciting and then it'll cut to 11 in the cabin, and then a flashback of like where she was in the woods, which is interesting to see. And like, I don't dislike it, but I feel like, again, when it comes down to the pacing, it just kind of, it makes me question, like, is she really adding anything to the group? Because like, it's completely separate. But I've thought about this for years. Imagine a version of season 2 where the first time you see 11 is that scene in the buyer's house where she throws the demodog through the window and then she walks in, but she still has the lost sister garb on her, and it's like, wait, what? She looks like, totally different. What happened? And
what
it's like, yeah, like what'd she
do?
And then the episode after that is like the flashback episode that like factors in like what happened, like where has she been? She's been hiding with Hopper, what? And you could have like little hints of like Hopper being like, you know, talking with Joyce and then be like, oh, I got to be somewhere. I got to go somewhere. He drives off. Oh, where is he going? You know, like that. I feel like, I mean, there's a couple of things that like make that like, oh, I don't know. I was going to say maybe it wouldn't make the reveal of like, we have to take Will to the cabin less impactful, but I feel like it would, because if it introduced that episode in the penultimate episode, then it would have been like, wait, they could take Will there and do that, you know, like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that would have made it a lot more exciting.
Imagine a recut, like that'd be kind of crazy. But
somebody could do a fan edit of that. Totally.
imagine though, like, yeah, that would be really cool if they did it to where that's the first like 11 scene in the whole entire season, and then
Yeah.
after that it's like full flashback thing with all the sister stuff. And
Yeah.
where even are they? Were they
Chicago.
Detroit? Just Chicago?
Yeah.
Whatever. And Detroit. Yeah, they did that whole thing, and then, it's like, oh my gosh, and then it leads up to the same place, basically.
Yeah, for the 9th episode.
And then it's like, oh, perfect. Now you're back.
Now you're caught up. This is where she was.
Everybody's caught up, and now it's like last episode. And that would have been a crazy. That would have been
really cool and a crazy reveal. But the thing is, like, you would have to like rush through stuff, which is like you would have to lose stuff. But I feel like there's a way it could have been done to where it could have included a good amount of what we got. But I don't know. I've always kind of thought about that, thinking like, imagine if that's the first time we saw her, like that would. But like the thing is, like, I remember in that Comic-Con trailer that we were talking about earlier, they show at the end that 11's alive. So like they kind of were like, oh yeah, she's coming back, which I feel like they really should have held off on that, because like the show was big enough to where like, people would still watch. It wouldn't be like, oh, 11's gone, I'm out. Like people would have watched it. And I feel like I imagine a version of season 2 where that is how it went down. Again, there's probably issues that come with it in terms of like, make a fan edit. It's like you'd probably lose a lot of stuff. It would have had to been reworked, but that would have been so awesome.
Definitely would have been so awesome. But yeah, one of the things that I could think that would, I don't know, make it not flow as well probably would be, I mean, they already do that anyways, making a whole episode out of, pretty much just one side of the whole entire gang doing stuff. I feel like they probably did that because it's like, all right, we don't want to just have like everybody else doing stuff and then one episode where it's straight just only 11 storyline and nothing to cut back to.
Well, but that's what they did with the Lost Sister, though.
True, which is where which makes me think like, okay, well, they could have just done it. Like
they could have done that. Yeah, I mean, I get it. They wanted to have like the stuff with her mom and everything, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been a lot cool and like so much more of a punch, because like when it happens, you're like, oh, it's 11, and it is exciting, and that's such a cool scene because like when she comes in and the pan up to her, it's like, oh my gosh, and like when it cuts over to Mike, especially at the time when like you're watching it for the first time, you're like, oh my gosh, Mike and 11, but like it would have had so much more of a punch if that was the first time we saw her. I don't know. That might just be me. That's just kind of like a thought that I've had about her story for a little while. I'm thinking of like I was saying, how they could have had scenes of Hopper being like, oh, I gotta go somewhere. They also could have done a similar thing where like the scene where Max falls off the skateboard in the gym. They could have done that where if 11 wasn't in the scene, she falls off and Mike's like, wait, was that her? And Bill's like, wait. And it also, it has, I mean, it has the same effect where it's like, Mike thinks that it's 11 and it's set up that he thinks he sees her everywhere and whatever. But like it would have had much more of like it could have just been she fell and it's like, oh, he thinks he sees her everywhere. It seems kind of more hopeless because we don't know that if it was 11 or not, just little things like that where it could have added to that. But I don't know
if they had like, I don't know, because I've never written a show, so I don't know how you like where you decide to put things and all that. But like if their idea was like we're coming up with right now was to basically hint at everything, I think it would have been like kind of crazy. Like that.
Yeah, it would have been great.
So hype. Like,
I know.
In the whole like reveal section of it, like that would be oh my gosh. But then it's like, okay, you have to foreshadow things and you have to like
you have to spend a certain amount of time dedicated to like foreshadowing and
You gotta come up with all this stuff just to make it make sense in the long run.
Yeah,
would have been cool. Just saying.
Silver
Brothers,
cool.
season 5, maybe.
Season 5 do the same thing, but that's just how I feel about 11's side of the story. In terms of like the different people doing different things, I feel like what I really liked about season 1 is that it felt, and this kind of going off of like feeling like, did 11 need to be in the first half of the season, like with her kind of just hanging out in the cabin. Season 1, as I mentioned in the other video, I'm pretty sure it's been a while since we recorded it. I feel season 1, I felt like they did such a great job of having every character serve a purpose in the story and having some sort of reason to be there, and like thing that they did that added to something. Like, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, Mike is with 11. Mike sort of gets full force of like I think Will is alive. Lucas doubts that. Dustin is sort of like in the middle, and Dustin's the one who figures out about the compass. Lucas wants to go straight to the lab. Mike wants to do it this way. Like they all have different things. Like Joyce and Hopper are like tracking down Will. Jonathan and Nancy, Nancy wants to find Barb, Jonathan wants to find Will. But like in this season, I feel like they didn't do as good of a job with their characters from season 1 feeling essential. Like, for example, Jonathan in this season is very much sidelined. He's kind of just like a vehicle for Nancy's storyline, because he doesn't really have much to do, really. Like, he doesn't do much at all. Like, he doesn't have really a moment where it's like, yeah, Jonathan did something. Like, he is he kind of like
he didn't do anything.
He's there to just kind of like, to just kind of drive Nancy. But also, like, even when he and Nancy get together, it feels like it does more for Nancy as a character than Jonathan. He doesn't really, he feels very much sidelined and not like he needs to be there either in this season, which is interesting, because he was directly tied to Will and his disappearance, and it was shown how it affected him in season 1. But in season 2, he doesn't even know that Will's possessed until like the end of the season, pretty much. Like, and like there's literally the scene in like the 8th episode the 9th. It's kind of confusing to me that the Lost Sister episode, given the fact that it's centered around 8, it should have been episode 8. What were they thinking? I said episode
such a
8.
lost opportunity.
I said
That's
episode
crazy.
8, and I was like, wait, no, that's the one centered around 8. And then I was like, no, it's not. That's episode 7. Wait.
Bro.
But like literally in episode 8, there's the scene where he and Nancy like drive up on Hawkins' lab, and they're like, what's happening? Like, they're so disconnected from the story, which makes like I like what they did with like getting Hawkins' lab shut down in the end. It's like, that's a good example of like, if the story is going to be separate, it at least had some sort of impact. Like, hey, it got Hawkins' lab shut down. That's an interesting development. But like, they are very disconnected and don't even become part of like the group until the end of the season, pretty much. And like Nancy has stuff to do, like she and Steve break up, she gets with Jonathan, and she gets justice for her friend. But side note, after she gets really, really drunk, and then she tells Steve that she doesn't love him. I really love how they had no attempt at making her seem affected or hungover at all the day after, because she's like, Steve, where were you? I missed first period.
Yeah.
We're in love and we're partying. Yeah, let's party, huh? Party, we're partying.
Where were you this morning? I missed first period.
Nancy ain't no lightweight, okay?
Yes, apparently not, yeah.
But apparently so?
She has stuff to do in this season, but like Jonathan feels just not essential. Like he doesn't really have anything to do in the season.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there's like nothing else to say.
That is one of the downsides of season 2 and on, in my opinion, is that like, as I mentioned, season 1, everyone felt like they mattered, and they kind of like lose sight of their other characters in favor of others. Like, I don't know, that's just a little nitpick that I have. But getting into like the sort of middle portion of the season, Will gets possessed. We do get like good performances out of Will, Noah Schnapp in this season. Like the scene of him and Joyce after he gets possessed, where he's like talking about what happened, is a really good scene. Like it's one of those things that, like, with the show getting bigger and bigger scale, you kind of lose moments like this. Like you still have them, but like moments that are directly tied to a character versus like the world is ending, like
I I felt it everywhere. Everywhere. I still feel it. I just want this to be over.
We haven't really talked too much about Bob, but I think it's really funny that first we had this conversation when we were watching it, but and this is a side thing that like he calls Joyce by her married name, which I think is kind of funny, but that's a side note. But also I think it's really funny how he figures out the map puzzle in like 2 seconds unexpectedly.
Yeah, no.
It's just like, wait, hold on, that's
Bob,
the lake.
Bob was too overpowered. They had to kill him off.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like
that's headcanon. Yeah,
he's like, that's Lover's Lake. Oh, and this must be, and this must be, and oh, it's a map. Easy. Let me calculate this on a map.
I win.
What? What is it?
I know that shape. It's Lover's Lake.
Okay,
looks like
if
we gotta
my
go
calculations are right, we gotta go to this pumpkin patch. Spot on.
2 OP had to be taken out. Only option.
No knowledge of anything before this. He's just like, yeah, all right, got it.
I got it. And he was like in the middle of talking to Joyce, and he just like side eye caught it. Like, wait, hold on, I recognize that.
Ding 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 ding. Got it.
I got it.
Map.
And speaking of the map, the drawings on the wall, they are a fun design thing, but it feels like one of those things where they were like, okay, we had the Christmas lights last season. What's this season's Christmas lights? Like, it feels like, how can we put things on the wall? Like, what can we do?
I had the same exact thought. I was like, oh yeah, this is totally their like the Christmas light equivalent of the second season, which it does not hit nearly as hard.
Yeah, no.
But
it's a fun visual, but like it doesn't. Yeah,
Not
it's like it's a fun visual, but it is not like it really doesn't hit as hard. Yeah, I totally agree.
You drew all these yourself?
However, like they lead to, you know, the discovery of the upside down tunnels, which, dude, that shot of Hopper in the tunnel that goes upside down, that is like top 3 shot in all the show. Oh my gosh, like that is like a literal top 3 shot of the entire series. Like that is, I don't know, like with the flashlight and like, oh my god, I yeah, full on legitimizing. That is amazing. But I always really loved the tunnels because it felt very like, especially when the kids go under there. Like I've talked about this in other videos before, but like the costume design with like the goggles and the bandanas and the gloves, like it just felt like an exciting adventure, which is where like when the season gets going, it's really good. And like I mean, that feels like I'm downplaying the first half. I do really, it's funny. I am talking about the negative things, but like I do wholeheartedly enjoy the season. But when the kids are in the tunnels, like it's from a design standpoint with the lighting and the color, like it looks great and it feels very Goonies. Like there's a couple shots that feel straight out of the Goonies. The tunnels, I don't know why. I remember when I first watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. But yeah, I really love the design of that. I think it's a cool expansion of the Upside Down. That I don't know, like, it plays on like, oh, it's growing, it's spreading. Like I don't know, I just think it's a cool development that they deal with.
Whoa, hey, I don't think so. Any of you little shits die down here, I'm getting the blame. Got it, dipshit? From here on out, I'm leading the way. Come on, let's go.
In this sort of middle portion, it's interesting because like, especially knowing like different things that I know like about behind the scenes, where little facts where it's like I'll read up and it's like, oh, this thing happened because they, you know, the Duffer Brothers decided they wanted to do this. You know, in episode 5 we get the introduction of Dustin and Steve, which another like, it's so crazy how that's like a completely unexpected thing that just happened. That's just a staple of the show now. You know, like nobody predicted it.
Like it doesn't make any sense at all, but now it makes so much sense. It's like, what?
Yeah, like, and it's funny because it's at a point in both of the characters' stories where it feels like they were kind of like, okay, where do we take them? What if? What if we like
sideline both of them
and then make them team up?
Yeah.
But it really kind of just goes to show that like when it happens, it feels like a cool moment that happens, and it's weird because like it isn't necessarily anything that's like huge plot revelation, but it's like these two characters that are just coming together, hanging out, and it's like, okay, like I'm down with this, all right. Get good scenes between them, like them on the train tracks, and Steve tells him how he does his hair and everything, fun little moments like that. So yeah, just getting towards the kind of the end of the season. I want to jump into Bob's death scene real quick, which I mean, we can't not talk about it without because right before it, the ultimate your mom joke. Do you know who I am? Your mom.
Your mom.
And then Joyce goes, hold him down. Just like in Winona Ryder voice, hold him down.
Your mom. Hold him down.
Also, like, I mean, Bob's death is sad, but it's kind of funny how Bob is literally responsible for the plot kicking off with that horrible advice he gives Will. I mean, horrible with what we as the audience knows, but he's like, just don't run away. Just tell it to go away.
Tell him to go away. And it's like, okay, yes, but
yes, but no.
No. For a dream, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. It could work.
For a mind flayer,
I don't know about that one.
Actually, that was a terrible idea. But imagine if it worked though.
Bob would be a hero. Towards the end of the season, we get Bob's death scene, which it's really funny just how telegraphed it is. Like, it's so sad, but it's like he makes it out and he's like, I've made it.
I'm alive. Yeah.
I am alive and breathing. Oh.
Stabbing,
no.
like
they were like, he is dead.
But they just left what's his
everybody
name?
else. Dr. Owens, yeah.
Dr. Owens. They were like, let's like bite his leg and then just like, whatever.
Maybe he just fell down the stairs. like honestly. Maybe he truly just fell down the stairs. But yeah, that Bob death scene, it's so funny because like it's so compared to it's like one of the most graphic death scenes in the show. Like even death scenes later on in the show, I can think of one, but it's like up there for like it's weirdly so graphic. But I feel like because there was like unnecessary discussion in between seasons of like, is Barb gonna come back? I feel like they were like, no, Bob's dead. like don't even.
Bob is not coming back. Are you seeing this? Yes.
Are you watching?
Yeah,
yes.
He's not coming back. I mean, Barb looked pretty dead to me, but
yeah, but I guess it's because like it's always the case like, oh, we didn't see the death scene really, like she got dragged, but
we didn't see her like last breath or any like
she could be alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bob's death scene, it is weird because like, especially not to get too into future seasons, but just the way that this season is structured, it's weird because like episode 8, right, Bob dies, and then we get this little like lull period where like the characters are mourning, and then which causes them to kind of like die down a little bit, and then they kind of like reignite the sort of like, okay, we got to do this now, like, which is interesting because again, like when you watch it and you know what happens, it feels like the season kind of like is waiting for certain things to happen. Like they're waiting for the opportunity for certain events to happen to push on to the next thing, to where it's like, okay, they can't just get out. We have to have Bob die. So then they want to kill it even more. And then they can't do that until 11 comes back. So we have to like, and if 11 is here, then she can't just, then that removes the problem because then she could just remove the gate on a random Tuesday instead of like, okay, she's here now. That's what the season kind of feels like. I don't know. Whenever the show, like, when we get to like these last 2 episodes and like the kids are in the tunnels and Hopper and 11 are in Hawkins' lab and Joyce, Will, Nancy, and Jonathan are in the cabin, like burning the mind flare out of him. Like when everything's running on all cylinders, like it's really exciting. You get a lot of cool stuff.
Light her up.
I'm in such deep shit.
Like, we talked about it briefly, but like, you know, the Lost Sister episode has a lot of, you know, it's the most infamous episode of Stranger Things because like it's the most universally hated. But how do you feel about it as a whole? Regardless,
I don't mind it.
I honestly don't mind it either.
Like,
it's not the best episode, but like I remember when it came out and it was like, this is the worst episode of television. Like people were like freaking out. It's honestly not that bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like. Obviously, it's like kind of like far left field for Stranger Things. It's kind of like, okay, what it like they kind of went off the rails with this one, but I don't know. I didn't mind it at all. Really, it's like, okay. I mean, who's to say she didn't have a sister that kind of escaped and then like went emo and found all these punk kids and you know, and started like a like revenge gang type thing. And it's also interesting because they're like, all right, bye, and then like
they never go back.
And there's no follow-up on that. So I guess they're still taking out the like
random people in the lab. They gotta have
somewhat higher ranking officials
right?
of like, the whole like Hawkins lab thing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting because I definitely was sort of bunched up in the like, oh, this episode sucks, like when it came out, but like over the years and like upon rewatches, I have eased up on it. Where like I think it's a fun idea, right? Like it even like they go into a similar concept with, you know, spoilers, but like Vecna in season 4 of like another lab. What if there was another lab experiment that like, but they have this little thing about them, and like I think that what makes it, but I don't know. It's weird because I was going to say what makes it hated or what, I don't know. I honestly don't know how fans feel about it now, but I think like people were like, oh, it's the placement. It happens right after we want to get more of the action, but like it's weird because like you binge the whole thing. So it's not like you're waiting a week for whatever. You're kind of watching it you could watch the next episode immediately after. So I guess it kind of messes up the flow, but like it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel as big of a deal as it used to me. I will say there are moments in it that feel kind of like weird a little, just like whether it be like line deliveries or exchanges or something, like the way that it was written that just, again, like you were saying, feels kind of like out of left field for Stranger Things. But like I think that it's a really good idea from a story standpoint that in a season that had a lot going on, because you have like we said, the Demodogs and the Mind Flayer, and you know, Bob's dead, or not at that point actually, but you know, Demodogs, Mind Flayer, you know, Nancy and Jonathan are off doing their own thing. Yeah, Bob is there, Will's possessed. Like I can get it just seeming like another idea that's kind of thrown in there. But honestly, like I don't mind it that much either. I don't know if that's controversial.
Hot take, guys. I don't actually hate the 7th episode of the 2nd season of Stranger Things.
Like it really isn't like my favorite, but it's not like the 2nd episode of the season is my favorite either. It's just another episode. You know, like I don't know. I feel like it's a interesting execution in some ways, but like a good idea on paper.
I mean, obviously, there's certain moments in the episode where I'm like, this is kind of cringy.
Yeah,
but
11 going, rah.
But like, I don't know. I think it's kind of, I don't know. I think it's an interesting change of pace.
Yeah,
and also some zany new characters that are kind of funny to watch. But I mean, they never really come back to it anyways. So I don't know. I really don't mind it that much.
Yeah, me neither. But that also is what makes it stick out more. The fact that like, you know, 2 seasons later and they still haven't come back to it.
Yeah,
because like they like heard that. That was one thing that they were like, okay, we're not doing it. We're done.
Y'all don't like it? say less and never coming back to it ever.
They're gone. They are
They
done.
are no longer characters in the universe.
That episode is not canon.
Yeah, imagine.
I do think it's funny that the age range between this group of characters is really funny because some of them seem way too old to be in this group, and it's like how do they? Because like some of them seem young, bro. And it's like yeah, the freaks
they bond over outcasting.
Okay, yeah.
But like us, the outcasts.
Outcast.
Freaks.
Okay, moving on to like the ending bit of the season. One thing that I do like, again, considering that the demodogs are a fun concept, but I feel like they kind of they undermine the stakes of the first season, because if there's just more of them, then kind of like what's the point? It's like, because before it was like the Demogorgon. This thing is unstoppable. And then it's like, okay, now we got a bunch of them. It's like, okay, it's
funny because I'm thinking like, okay, they do say like, oh, it's a baby Demogorgon. Are the Demodogs and Demogorgons the same thing actually?
I think so. Don't they like molt into like?
They do
molt. Wouldn't have Dart have molted into a Demogorgon? I don't know actually.
Why is there like a bunch of them and then they're all like Demodogs? Like there's no diversity in the ones they fight. They're all dogs. I didn't see a single Demogorgon.
Yeah.
Climbing up the thing when they're closing the gate or in the tunnels or anything. So
I don't know. That's sort of just like I don't know. I kind of have like thoughts on that where I'm like, does that make the first season with the Demogorgon feel less like impactful if it's like, okay, there's like more?
I think it kind of does depend on whether or not they're like the same exact thing. Because if there are Demodogs and Demogorgons, then I think it doesn't as much. I think it's like, okay, it's kind of a separate thing. They're like, Demodogs and they're fighting the Demodogs, and it's like, okay, this is like a whole different kind of fight almost. Whereas it's like, okay, the Demogorgon is kind of like this separate entity almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, the Demodogs we can fight, okay? They're not too bad. Demogorgons though, bro, stay away from those things.
Don't go. Don't mess with those.
If they are the exact same thing, then I think it totally undermines the whole entire first season. It's like, okay,
because like they made
now we're fighting like 15 of them, and
like
I mean, obviously they're like adolescent or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's still like, okay.
Because like 11 like had a fake out death over one Demogorgon, and then it's like, okay, there's like a bunch of little ones now. It's like, oh, okay, so what was the point of that? But I don't know. But and kind of like building off of that, I feel like the thing with Dart, it's interesting because it does feel like a situation where they wanted to do Gremlins. They wanted to have like, okay, Dustin has like a pet monster thing, and it does feel like sort of a vehicle to get Dustin and gang from point A to point B, because like by the time you get to the last episode, there's a little payoff moment, where Dart lets them pass. He gives them the Three Musketeers, and Dustin says goodbye, and it's like, oh, that's nice. But like, considering how much time was spent on it and the fact that they almost died, and like, it's one of those things where it's like, is that enough of a payoff to justify like all that? Like, I think that what should have happened, and no, it would have gone against like hive mind stuff. So this is probably why they didn't do it. But like in the scene where like it looks like the Demodogs are going to charge Dustin and Steve, if like Dart swoops in and like jumps in front of them, and it's like, oh my gosh, they did have a bond, like it would have been like a more payoff than like, okay, he just let them pass, But I don't know. I mean, again, it would have gone against lore, I guess, but like, but I don't know. I just feel like storylines like that, I question, like, was that enough of a payoff to like justify like a whole season of like, okay, we got to find him and whatever, because like it kind of just feels like Dustin, Steve, Lucas, and Max are like kind of wandering for a little bit, and it's like, okay, like we're waiting for this to happen, and now we're trying to find him. Oh, we stumbled, like, to the point where like when the stories all converge, like Dustin and Steve and everybody bump into Jonathan and Nancy just on complete accident. It isn't even because like their stories are connected. It's just like they just bump into each other, and it's like, oh, okay, we're here. I guess we're together now.
Steve?
Nancy? Jonathan?
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
The storylines in this season, I like. There are some of them that have a good payoff, but like ones like Dustin and Dart, I question like, was that enough of a payoff to justify the screen time? But but that was just a side tangent. But what I was gonna say is that like even though I feel like and Max even plays on like, she says like, oh, your story was a little derivative, which kind of, you know, played on the criticism of people being like, oh, season 1 was just E.T., it was just this and that. But like even though like season 2, like with, you know, oh, there's just more Demogorgons, I do think it was a really interesting choice to have like the climax of the season legitimately be like structurally and like completely different from season 1, with like Will having an exorcism. Like that's totally out of like, I like, that is not what I would have expected going off of the season 1 finale. Like, okay, then they tie Will to a bed and they burn him alive. Like that's not what I would have expected.
Yeah, Nancy sticks like a steak,
like a fire poker,
red hot steak into Will. Like, bro, what?
Yeah, like, but I do appreciate that because it's like, oh wow, this is completely different stylistically, and it's just interesting. I don't know, I like that.
Yeah,
that choice.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like half thinking about like what you said, and then also half thinking about the whole like Demogorgon Demodog undermining thing still. And it's like, well, they could, but also it doesn't following seasons undermine everything else also at the same time?
Because it just adds another thing.
Yeah, which I think you could think of it like it does, but I think it doesn't, because regardless, everything's gonna scale. Like 11's gonna get stronger, and we're gonna have a even bigger, badder final boss type thing. So I think you could think of it like it undermines it, but it really doesn't, because how else do you top the previous season?
How else do you have another story that's like, okay, this is, you know, this is giving, this is why we made this.
Yeah, this isn't just the same, or like, you know, it's not the same stakes. It's even bigger than last time. But yeah, I don't know. I think this season, I feel like there was a lot of like, oh, shoot, there's a mind flayer now. What's gonna blah blah blah, mind flayer this, mind flayer that. And there's a whole lot of what's the word for like backstory?
Exposition.
I always forget exposition. Like I'm always thinking like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, exposition, but I can never think of the word. It felt like there was so much exposition for Mind Flayer, and then at the end of the season, it was like, so no Mind Flayer then, okay?
Yeah,
like Demodog's awesome.
Yeah, great
fight and all, and the sorry.
No, you go.
The whole like, you know. I like how everything was like at the same time. They timed it perfectly. That was epic.
That's a really cool scene. Like Steve throws the lighter, cut to 11, cut to Will. Cut to 11, that's great.
Everything's going at the same time. It works perfectly.
I also
Will screaming as if like, it's Will, guys.
Yeah, just yeah, that's so true. It's like, wait, it's actually me. Mom, please untie me.
Let me go. Untie me. Like, bro, stop gapping, bro. We all know this is not you.
You know, we're getting like nitpicky about whatever, but like that, you know, that whole sequence in the finale like is really awesome, and I just love from the story standpoint how like Mike and the others are like, okay, you know, we got to help him out. We got to go in the tunnels and burn it to draw attention away. You know, like it's a fun story, and like again, like it's fun when it feels like an adventure, and the characters are like on this crazy mission to like help out. And you know, like we get funny moments, like like even though like, you know, like Billy gets taken out by Max, and like, you know, it gives Max a character moment where it's like, okay, she stood up to Billy. That's like a character thing. And she drives them, you know, we get the funny moment of like Steve waking up in the car. Like it's, you know,
no,
we
don't
get
touch it.
don't touch it. He's I love how he's shushing. He was like, oh, shh, don't touch it.
No, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Hey, buddy. Shh. It's okay. You put up a good fight. You kicked your ass, but you put up a good fight, buddy. Okay, you're okay.
And obviously, I mean, it's a great finale. But the only thing is, I feel like there was, and then again, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe it was a good idea to not like bring in the Demogorgon, the Mind Flayer. Obviously, this season wasn't the season for the Mind Flayer.
Yeah,
but they put so much into like, oh my gosh, the Mind Flayer. Will sees the Mind Flayer everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
To where it's like, all right, we're gonna fight this guy at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Nope.
And but also, and this is kind of going off of like the season feeling like a slow burn, but it takes like a great amount of the season before they even call it the Mind Flayer. It's episode 8 that they dub it the Mind. Like it was the Shadow Monster beforehand, which again, it's another interesting choice where it makes sense because it's like, well, they didn't just immediately know what it was. Will wasn't telling them about it, so sure. But like, it's interesting that they called it a thing for the first 8 episodes, and then we're like, okay, it's the Mind Flayer. I don't know. I just think that's interesting. But as you were saying,
it works fine knowing what happens in season 3, obviously. But it just feels like we should have fought the Mind Flayer, at least the Shadow Monster version of the Mind Flayer this season, which I guess they kind of did, but it was more of like a
manifestation through other things.
It was like a I don't even know what the word is. Like a semi-removed from the fight with the Mind Flayer almost. You know what I mean?
Because that was the last step. It was like, it wasn't even fight it. It was just close the gate. So
it was just close the gate,
out.
Yeah.
But also, I could it not have gotten out? like I don't even remember. Was there a reason why I couldn't have just gotten out?
No. It was just like the hole wasn't big enough, I guess. Maybe that's why they were trying to grow it. I don't know. Maybe that's why I was growing it. Just couldn't fit his whole shadowy body. I don't know. Point is, can't change it now. And I think it's I think it's a good finale.
Yeah, me too.
You did good, kid. You did so good.
I do think it's interesting, and it's there. And this isn't like a whole point of conversation because it's like there's not a whole lot to say about it. But I do think that this and the first season, like we mentioned in the first season, how there were moments considering the future of the show that there are moments that at the time felt like, oh, this looks cool, but it doesn't really like fit with like the plan later on that they formed a couple of years later. And then one of those things for me is like the fact that like the Mind Flayer is able to, even though Will is in the right side up and he sees into the upside down, the Mind Flayer is able to possess Will and get his body in the right side up to where it exits Will's body in the right side up, but it possessed him in his mind. Like, it's kind of a weird, like, there's a weird, like, I don't know if that's like broken lore or something, or if it was just like, we needed it to happen. Like, I don't know.
I feel like you could explain that. Like, you could make up an explanation for it. Like, you could say, oh, Will has this connection with the upside down, so where, like, you know, he was technically in both the upside down and the right side up at the same time, so that's how the Mind Flayer could have got to him. But it's like, I mean,
like, does that really? Sure, I guess, but I don't know. But it's one of those things that I feel like it won't even be. I mean, maybe in season 5 it might be explained, but like, I don't see them being like, this is how it happened. I don't know, which, and not that it even matters, because it's just like it got the story moving. That's all the point of that was. But But yeah, I just think that's interesting. But yeah, you know, they get the Mind Flayer out of Will, everything's great. And, you know, we get one thing that I do like about this finale, and it's partially why it might be one of my favorite finales of the show, is that like they spend a lot of time in like the peacetime at the end. Like I really like how we get this sort of like calm moment of like, we get the snowball, which was, you know, set up in season 1. which is a really fun ending. I really like that they like call back to that. I do, and I meant to say this earlier, but again, what the season does really well is like it does expand upon the characters that you liked in season 1. Like we get to see Lucas and Dustin's families and stuff like that, and which adds. It's not exactly like plot relevant, but it's a nice little detail of like, season 1 was very much focused around Mike. And this time around, we get to see a little bit of Dustin and Lucas, which is just a fun little thing to see that expands the world while keeping it connected to the characters, which I always really enjoy. This ending is with the snowball is just a lot of fun. It's really, what I like about it is that, at least for me, just as a fan, I fully enjoy this ending, and it works because like it works if you care about the characters, and if you do, then this stuff is just as entertaining to watch as the story. It's like, oh wow, we're seeing the aftermath of everything, which is just a lot of fun to see. Very very sad to see Dustin get turned down by everybody.
Except Nancy.
Except Nancy, while time after time is playing, but great, nice moment between the two of them.
No. Out of all my brother's friends, you're my favorite. You've always been my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I feel like, and I mentioned this to you briefly, where I feel like obviously there was places to take the story, but I feel like this honestly could have worked as like an ending to the show if it didn't get renewed for a season 3, which it was bound to. But because it literally ends with, it's a bookend with like the snowball, where like end of season 1, Mike's like, we can go the snowball, and then they go the snowball. Like it ends things, and it gets Hawkins. Like it has a lot of moments where it's like, oh, where do we go from here? Like they shut down Hawkins' lab, they get justice for Barb. Mike and Eleven go to the snowball. Like they have the moment that calls back to the very first episode where Nancy dances with Dustin, and it's a little callback to like him going up to her room and trying to give her the pizza, and it's like, oh, Justin always kind of liked Nancy, and it's like a nice moment between them. And like this is just a really nice ending that I really enjoy. There's not really much else to say about it other than the fact that, again, with the 80 songs per minute, there's like 5 different songs that play in this scene. And whenever I hear it now, I'm like, whoa, that music budget must have been crazy.
It's gonna be a strange twist of fate, telling me to
every single song, please.
Every song of 1984.
More songs, please.
But yeah, that's the end of the season. It ends with the mind flare looming over the school, and that is Stranger Things 2. Yeah, I mean, we did talk about a lot of nitpicky stuff, but like, overall, and there is stuff that we missed, but I'm sure that like whenever we go into the next season, we're going to be like, oh, and also this thing that factors into season 2, So that's season 2. Again, like I said, we were nitpicky, but I really enjoyed this season. There's a lot of great stuff in it. I had a lot of fun rewatching it. I always have a lot of fun rewatching this one, again, because it just feels like tonally, it feels like such a great continuation of season 1, where it doesn't quite hit this sort of like whimsical feel that season 1 had, but it has enough of the same essence to where it's like the first 2 Harry Potter movies, where like 1 and 2 feel very much the same visually and sort of tonally, before the third one kind of like completely changes the aesthetic a little bit.
It's like every time I rewatch it, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, right. Like I love
as if it wasn't awesome last time. But yeah, they totally could have just like straight up ended it like here, and it would have been like, all right, fine by me. But like,
yeah,
obviously, 3 more seasons. I can't say no to that.
Yeah, it's funny now. Like as where I'm at now with shows, I'm more so on the side of like, if you've taken care of everything, you can end it. Versus back then where I was like, I need more.
I need more. Yeah, imagine it like turned terrible. That would be really sad. But
oh my gosh,
it hasn't yet. So we only got 1 more left. Other than that,
that's it.
Great season. I don't know if I'd call it my favorite season so far.
Me neither, because I still, having rewatched 1 and 2, 1 is still just way above it.
There's something about 1, like I feel like the Christmas lights alone.
Yeah.
Like the Christmas lights are such like a staple, I guess.
Trademark.
It's such a perfect like staple of, I don't know, like an icon or something. Like, but not like it's hard to explain. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
get what you're
so
saying,
perfect that it's just like, oh, it's so cool. Like, nothing beats that.
Yeah.
But season 2 is just as great.
Yeah, it's a worthy follow-up to the first, but also like what, in my opinion, right now has like season 1 still above season 2 is that, you know, like with the story, like the story in season 1 felt a lot tighter and felt like there was a lot more urgency of like, we got to deal with this right now versus like season 2, which had a lot of like, oh, I can't give Dart to Hopper. Oh, I can't tell my friends about this. So, you know, which kind of
a little bit more leisurely.
To the conflict, but like and to the point where it takes like 5-6 episodes before it's like, okay, we got to deal with this right now. It's like, okay, now we got to handle it. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, I think it's a worthy follow-up to season 1.
I agree.
And yeah, I do think I enjoy it a lot more than most people, because it does kind of get bunched in with like, you know, like kind of forgotten of like, oh yeah, season 2, oh that's the Lost Sister season, huh?
Oh yeah, it's all right.
I don't like that one, but yeah, I enjoy it, and yeah, that's our discussion on Stranger Things 2, and I am excited to go into 3.
Same.
Take us out, Stranger Things theme that I'll put in editing. Yeah, 2 times speed.
I feel like this season has some of the best your mom jokes.
yeah, we can
Like,
get to
prime
your
mom
thing.
joke territory.
I shouldn't have left.
No, it's on you, kid. I should never have lied to you about your mom.